Soyez le bienvenu, no time to curtsy as we zoom right in on the island of Jersey. See, it's 103,000 people, 45 square miles as viewed by seagull. Prevailing southwesterlies, offshore finance, main language English, though closer to France. But all that there is a view from above, lay of a land without landscape or love. So how to start, how to begin it, how to pack it all into 10 short minutes. Cause I can't plumb down to the very foundations, the 600-million-year-old shale formations, sediments sliding from streams that stroll somewhere close to the far South Pole. No time to view tectonic orogenies that thrust us up above smoking seas. No time for the magma that formed the granites, the rivers depositing Roselle's conglomerates. So fast forward near to geology's ends, and what's 500 million years between friends? To 250,000 years before now, before milk, potatoes, or the plough. An ice age makes the North Plains shiver. The English Channel's a far-off river, and the place we stand is a promontory, a prologue to our human story. Neanderthals now look below on game trails of mammoth and woolly rhino. And stealthily setting the stage for the slaughter, they vault above valleys now lost below water, adjusting grasp on sharp flint spears, signaling soft as the mammoth nears. Then roar from cover, rush over the bluff, but we're still too early, and there's too much stuff to go. But we know for a fact this happened. How Neanderthalis met Homo sapiens and interbred and begat and begot, as shown by this tooth from the caves at Lacotte, where there's 200,000 years of habitation, longer than so-called civilization. So that merits a mention before we depart for the British Isles' very earliest art. The Middle Stone Age, so a little bit later, but 18,000 years till this day. Here, nomadically moving toward our locality, pioneer Magdalenian families, pitching tents from the cold and keening wind in the valley at Leverine, and among the litter they fling and forget are stacks of scratchy stone, plaquettes, and secretly scrawled in the Ice Age ruins, scored by stripes from stag antler burins. Your X-ray eyes can see this now. The horny head of a kind of cow, a human face as drawn by a drunk, and the fine outline of a mammoth's trunk. Moving on, what you shouldn't forget is none of these people are islanders yet. But things are hotting up. The Ice Age is over. The planet is losing its glacial cover, releasing loess, a shifting dust that covers the world with a fertile crust. And although it isn't important till later, it's gonna do wonders for the potatoes. This fertile little island nation greets the next wave of immigration as up Europe's rivers, changing the ecology around them, bringing the very latest technology like axes. Suddenly all the rage. Come the farmers of the Neolithic Age. 5,500 years ago, these people, now bound to the sun's progress on the yearly round, must know when to seed and to harvest the ground, so they raise up high a mighty mound. La Hug B on the 1 pound note. See the passageway opening up like a throat, its great granite stones raised up in a doorway aligned with the dawn of the sun on the shore day that came with the springtime equinox, when seeding could start in orthodox, when the sun shines down in a shaft of light, creeps down the passageway, reaches on right to the wall, where the sun rising over the door takes its light back down the corridor. Every year the sun rises, every year the sun takes. Dolmens start spreading all over the place, menhir, pucolae, passage graves as trees recede in man-made waves of falling axe and fringing flame, clearing land for the hungry grain. But on the sun rises and on the sun takes, let this be the clock as we accelerate, past beaker folk with their lipped clay cups, past hordes and swords and Bronze Age dumps, past farmers whose aurochs plowed their way through fields now drowned beneath St. Juan's Bay, past Iron Age tribe, the Corio Solity, investors in our offshore economy, burying gold beneath bygone bastioned hill in Grouville that we call a Catillon, keeping their eyes on the French landscape for any sign they might have to escape. The Romans who popped to Caesarea as we crash on into the Common Era, past whoever Guerre was, staking his claim by giving the island of Guernsey its name, past coracles, Britannic Christians rode on their grim and godly missions, past William Longsword, who in 931 steals us of Brittany. We become part of Normandy, more distinguished as the next Duke William conquers the English. Past Norman lords and exiled sons building their churches and feudal custom, past gleaners working the shoreline borders, collecting vrec and wreck and ormers, past Jerseyman Wace, who waxed poetic in Norman French writing Nash national epics for patronage of Henry II, whose son John loses his French possessions and shows us we are now English dependents by building Montorgueil to defend us against incursions, conflagrations, invasions, ravaged by raiders and nearby neighbours, past trade in salted conger eel, the leopards granted for our seal, bubonic and pneumonic plagues, invaded again and again and again, past papal bull of neutrality protecting the island in theory, not always respected, past Reformation, when Jersey lurches to Calvinism, whitewashing churches, harbouring Huguenot asylum seekers, Protestant creeds and screeds and speakers, whilst onwards plough the Jersey farmers whose surly melancholic marches follow their furrows from dawn till nights of conger oil and crasse light, the dances, the arched and granite rooms in hurdy-girdled chiffony tunes of gossip, diton, tales, traditions, litigations and superstitions, and the constant clack of needles clicking as man and woman they pick up knitting those woolen jerseys and the very last socks ever worn by Mary, Queen of Scots, past orchards full of apple trees for cider making and eau de vie, and shielding these trees by work of hand, men, women and children enclose the land, built patchworks of fields and paths around us, the countryside that now surrounds us. Past civil war, Governor Carteret's loyal takes IOUs of retreating royals, launches attacks on the English fleet, hosts Charles II but has to retreat as Parliament marches us back to the nation. New Jersey's his after Restoration, and although we've no time, Carteret is instrumental in Britain's early slave trade, so we do have to mention it. Now coasting the codbank's shivering spray, islanders race to the Newfoundland trade, invest their money and tie their hopes to our shipbuilders' masts with our chandlers' ropes. Privateers loosed on enemy shipping, boats for every kind of fishing, and merchantmen that sail upon the South China Seas and Amazon, span the Atlantic, participate in that slave-owning global triangular trade, selling French wine and Jersey socks, selling on barrels of salted cod, bringing home luxuries, odds and sods, Caribbean cotton, rum, sugar, molasses, mahogany from enslaved Honduras, while island wives on tenterhooks keep the homes and balance the books. Past a people rising with the price of bread, when the Sioux loses value, town goes unfed, when the lieutenant bailiff exports his corn, the islanders riot for rights and reforms, whilst fraudeurs nightly to and fro from Minkies and the Ecrahos spirit the gin smuggled in from St. Malo, traffic out bacco leaf criminal cargo. The Royal Square rumbles, French attack, the Battle of Jersey beaten back by Major Pearson, avenged by Pompey, depicted here by John Singleton Copley. John Wesley visits with high-preaching style and spreads Methodism throughout the island. The army widens our ways and roads, building the towers that girdle the coast. We reave and raid. Napoleon names us a nest of brigands, an England shame. Oyster fishing, peacetime surges of Breton, Irish and Scottish workers, lots of English. Some live in squalor. There are epidemics of dysentery, malaria, cholera and smallpox, cured by vaccinations and Pierre Le Sueur's new sanitations. The herd book's established, ensuring now the pedigrees of the Jersey cow. Fraud causes island-wide banking crashes. Jersey folk emigrate out in their masses. Strange buds sowed in Delahaye's soil unfeasibly formed the Jersey Royal. Early potatoes for English markets exported with exceptional markups. St. Helier serves a steady stream of English tourists of paddle steamers, telegraph trains and charabanc cart doors, glass houses guarding the indoor tomatoes. Penultimate 20th century dawns, Great War influenza spawns, Women's Jersey Political Association, World War II and occupation. We leave, stay, escape, are deported and die. Resist, starve, survive on a prison island until one day after Europe's war, a swastika falls from the Hotel Pomme d'Or, and with a sense of jubilation, Force 135 bring liberation. Jersey Zoo in the summer season, the first Madeiran say bon dia, low-tax banks trust financial instruments, bringing us neatly to this millennium's aging population, equal marriages, more cost per capita, anthropogenic as unprecedented as Brexit pandemic, fishing rights, trans rights. We reach the present, and our last census shows us how we're quite a diverse group of people now. Kenyans, Nigerians, French and Romanians, Poles, Thais, Latvians, Lithuanians, Jews and Muslims, Madeiran, Portuguese, South Asian, Caribbean and Chinese. And although they're usually keen to distinguish that wave of immigrants known as the English, whose language makes us anglicisé, despite 400-ish Cherrier speakers today, but we can't get distracted for goodness sakes, for on the sun rises and on the sun takes, in almanacs, clocks and the movement of peoples, standing stones and parish steeples, igneous rocks and epidemics, Neanderthal traces in our our genetics. These paths of sun and works of hand shape our pace as we shape our land. But we are now up to date, and so, as we say en Gérier, à bientôt.